Welcome to Enterprise Services Client Briefing Centre. We're going to be talking today about innovating business models in the public sector. We're going to be exploring how technology can help turn important citizen objectives into realities, how technology can also really help governments in terms of policy, and how that critical third point, how to meet the expectations of tech-savvy citizens. So let me introduce you then, with no further ado, to the two gentlemen seated to my left. Let me introduce to you first Frank Huynen, who sat next to me. He's industry executive, public sector and healthcare for Enterprise Services. And the gentleman just to Frank's left is another Frank, the two Franks today. This is Frank Geets, who's Chief Administrator, General ICT and Facility Management for the Flemish government, who can really tell us what the government experience has been. So, Frank Geets, if I can ask you first of all, in terms of the government experience, tell us first of all, if you would, about citizen expectations, those tech-savvy citizens that are demanding so much from governments these days.
Well, in Flanders, we want to be one of the top 5 regions in Europe on all the way. We want to be sustainable, but we also want to be digitalized. Now, we know that our citizens, they want to have things done faster, better. They want to do it on mobile devices or on their devices at home. They also want to do it in a very secure way, and also a very simple way. And I think that's also what I'm asking as a citizen to my government. And that's why we created a program which was called Flanders Radical Digital. How do you can change it. But we really want to make a change so that by the end of this decade, we have no more paper flows going through the government.
So in terms of citizens' response to this idea, what has the reaction been?
Well, they said this should have been done already years ago. And years ago, what we did is we had paper forms, and we thought that digitalization was making a digital form of the paper form, and then fill it in, print it out, send it by mail. And then we were mailing the form, and then we were still printing the form out in the administration and filing it. So Flanders Radical Digital means that we're not going to digitalize the existing paper process. And it's not even an IT project. It's really all about process re-engineering. We want not just to digitize a bad process, we first want to develop the right processes and then digitalize it. What we also see is that we have a lot of processes where people have to ask something to the government. Now, in a lot of cases, the government knows exactly everything which we write down on the paper. So why should we apply for a subsidy or a tuition fund or whatever? Because the government knows that we're eligible and that we're going to ask it anyway, so why not just put it on our account and send a letter, congratulations, it's on your account. That is what people of today ask of their government.
But radical digital sounds so ambitious, but from what you're saying, it's ambitious, but it saves money.
Well, it saves quite some money because at the same time, we harmonized a lot of IT processes. We reduced our data centers, or are still working on it, to reduce the number of data centers by 90%, which will give us modern, secure, not a lot of energy consuming data centers. They will be heavily protected, very, very secure. We will reduce our carbon footprint. And at the same time, we are modernizing applications, which had to be done anyway, because we never thought in the past that citizens would use mobile applications, which is something new for government. So there are a lot of things we are doing, but don't consider it as an IT project. It's really a process re-engineering project.
And you've been working with Enterprise Services since, I believe, 2003.
Yeah.
How's that experience been?
Well, we've outsourced our ICT, not only the operational ICT, like running data centers and help desk, etc., but also the more strategic part where we develop new applications or we try to do a lot of new things. We do that together most of the time with the people from Enterprise Services. They've been a good partner because otherwise we wouldn't have renewed the contract. But of course, as in every good marriage, sometimes there's a hiccup. And then you need to talk about it and find a solution. And until now, we've never reached the point of divorce. So I think we're running a fairly good trajectory.
Frank Huynen, tell us more about those solutions. It does sound ambitious, but it is about making better use of information. How does that work?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. If you look at the online services Frank was proposing, then information is really the fuel of these digital transformations for any government that is going through these steps. So let me give you two examples where I think we had impact on their businesses and their processes. It's the only ask it once principle, and then the data labs and the data analytics. Just to start with the first one, MAGDA is the platform, and that's how they call the program in Flanders for only ask it once. It's really a platform where the Flemish government is sharing the data they already know amongst the administration and agencies, so they don't have to ask it again. Now, this is all very privacy-related information. It's not just geodata or simple information that's available. It's privacy. It could be salary. It could be your family situation. That's the information they share. By allowing to share that, we are able to develop online services that are really specific for the citizen and meet the 24/7 service. Let me give you an example in this area, which is just recent, one of the pilots that is now launching. It's about the eco-zone in the city of Antwerp. Once you drive in with your car, you get recognition of your number plate. With that information, we can find out the driver. By going into MAGDA, we can find out the family situation. Large family gets reductions. We can also identify if people are handicapped or have a certain limitation, and so they can drive a car that is rebuilt, so they're allowed into the city for free. So all of those things is fully automated. Also the back-end process, the payment, the fees, and that's all by reusing all of these sources that MAGDA is actually providing.
Give us an idea, Frank, of the kind of numbers we're talking about here. How much demand is there from citizens?
There's about, we're able to bring about 15 to 16 real registers together. And I would say on an annual basis, there were about 42 million transactions that are done now completely digital, where I would say in the past, it would have been, like Frank said, it would have been a paper or a clerical action that somebody had to take.
Incredible. Just think 42 million pieces of paper, how many trees that is. So, Frank Yates, can you give us some idea about those new models that you're working on?
Well, the advantage of being responsible for both everything which has to do with buildings and ICT gives us some advantages, also budget-wise, to work on an integrated and thus cheaper way to go into sustainable buildings, which will be full of sensors. We're fully developing the Internet of Things to manage our buildings. We're implementing unified communication. We're talking to the people to get our government applications in the right cloud, because we have the public cloud, the right cloud, our own data centers. So it's really a transformation and incredibly different of what we used to do in the past. And at the end, we only want to have one thing. When I receive a letter from the government addressed to me on my address, and there's a form in it, the first thing they ask me, what's your name and where do you live? I mean, when we can get rid of that, then we will have succeeded in the Flanders Radical Digital project.
This really is the start of a revolution, isn't it, Frank? Millions of users, all trapped in that place where they need to have mobility and privacy in cloud and so on. Tell us about how other public sector clients can benefit from this new thinking and this new way of doing things.
Well, the last couple of months, working with Frank, we bundled our expertise and developed a Digital Government Experience Center, so a DGX back in Mechelen. It's really to help clients go through this digital transformation, identify where they are and what their next step is in that transformation. By the way, all governments are welcome to come and have a visit. It's not a demo center, it's a think and do place where we will co-create, co-develop and accelerate some of the benefits or some of the activities governments are already undertaking, but we're happy to share our expertise in those centers.
It's a lot of front-ended work, but actually in the long run, it's going to save a lot of money and a lot of work.
I think so, but foremost, it will help really create a good customer experience, because our citizens, we should see them more as a customer and not just as a citizen. We really want to make the shift from you have to the citizen wants to. And if we can also achieve that, that would be a major transformation.
That would be a major transformation. Frank Yates and Frank Huynen, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.